Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Kiara Profeta. Together, we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today we are exploring the Pacific Northwest wilderness, which we do honestly quite a bit, but never like this. We are talking about Pacific Northwest Survival Games, which is a survival competition show currently being developed for TV.
So exciting. I'm immediately seeing Survivor, but with like Doug furs.
There's a lot of ways you could interpret this, so...
Yeah, I mean, as someone who like used to watch Survivor and really always was like, I think the Northwest would be a great location for this, even if it's Alaska. I love this idea. I'm psyched about this. So here to tell us more about it is Tony Peniche, co-founder of the Pacific Northwest Survival Games. Tony, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just get things started here. Like, tell us what inspired you to do this project. What are the origins of the survival games here?
Yeah, my co-founder, Phil Robinson, and I were out camping, doing some bushcraft. We're both just really into that stuff. The question is always, if we're in a survival situation, which nobody ever wants to be in a survival situation, obviously, that's a life and death situation. Would we be able to survive? Would we be able to craft fire, make shelter, purify water, find food, all those things? And so while we were out camping one time, we were doing a bunch of bushcraft, testing our skills. And I had been talking about this idea for a while, for about 2 years, actually. And I was calling it the Redneck Olympics. And I just wanted to do this backyard barbecue. Where I was just going to have some friends over and we were going to like spend the weekend, doing some different challenges and just, have a barbecue, have a good time, kind of compete against each other because I'm very competitive. And, and my friends kept bailing out. It was really annoying. And so Phil and I were talking about it. We're like, what if we just did it anyways, but we put it on Facebook and then made it public and we'll make new friends here, like in our city, see if anybody else is interested in doing this stuff. So at the very last minute, I changed the name to the PNW Survival Games. I made a logo for it. My background is in marketing and business development. That's kind of what I do basically for my 9 to 5 is marketing and branding consulting. And so I made it look cool. Like that's what I do. But apparently I made it look too cool, and everybody thought it was like a Spartan race or like a Tough Mudder, like a huge. Everyone thought it was like this huge thing, and so it went viral like immediately, which we did not expect. And we started getting all these phone calls from celebrity survivalists wanting to get involved. The whole event sold out in less than a week. And I realized this is not going to work in my backyard. So I rented an entire campground. So we basically had 60 days to adapt and figure this out. So I rented like a whole campground. We bought a whole bunch of gear and started talking to all these like celebrity survivalists. And we're like, yeah, you can come out and be a mentor and be an instructor. And then people also started asking about the TV show and like when that was going to come out. We're like, what are you talking about? This is supposed to be a barbecue. So I do have some friends that are in production, and so we decided to just roll with it. So within that 60 days, we also met up with this production crew, and they came out and filmed the whole event to basically be test footage for a pilot, so we could turn it into a TV show. And that was in October of 2023. Coming up on 2 years now. And this will be our third event coming up in August. In 60 days, we went from backyard barbecue to huge production for a pilot for a TV show, and also just huge production for like an event, kind of like a Tough Mudder. And it was awesome. And that's really how it started. It was kind of an accident. But, I've built and sold companies before. So when I saw the momentum starting to pick up, I knew how to adapt and roll with the punches and make it work. And that's what we did. And so since then, things have grown tremendously, and it's getting really exciting now.
Wow. First off, how big is your backyard?
It's not that big. Maybe like quarter of an acre. I mean, I'm talking like it was supposed to be a very humble, like small barbecue. I just wanted like if I get like eight people to come out and hang out with me and do like some bushcraft challenges for the weekend, I would have been stoked. I didn't expect like 40 people to sign up and be willing to, put up their hard-earned dollars and give up their entire weekend. Especially people like our target demographic is like people like probably in their late 20s to mid 50s, so probably like that mid 30s to 40s range is like sort of the primary demographic. That means people have kids, they have families, they have responsibilities. And so I really wasn't expecting that demographic to jump on this so aggressively, but it turns out there was a need for this, a hunger for something like this. And we tapped into something unknowingly.
So I'm so curious then, what do these games look like? What are people doing? What are the challenges? Like the part of me that loves Survivor is like, okay, what are we doing? Is this team stuff? Are we doing individual? Is anyone getting voted out of the backyard or the campground or whatever as the case may be?
Yeah. So the property we're using now for the third year in a row is called the Malala Ripple. It's about 30 acres down in Malala. And the owner is a retired fireman. So it's really nice to have that skill set on the property as well. And the way it works is it's 2-person teams. So this year we have 50 competitors, and so that'll be 25 teams. And the format is you get a 30-minute skills lesson. So let's say we're doing a bow drill fire or building shelter. You get a 30-minute skills lesson from a world-class instructor. And at the end of that 30 minutes, then we announce what the 60-minute challenge is going to be. And then you're going to try to complete that challenge within 60 minutes. And we design all the challenges to be objective. We don't want to have to go around and say like this shelter is better because it looks prettier, right? Or it's built in a better location. That gets a little wishy-washy. So we design all the challenges so that way they're objective. So an example would be for the shelter challenge, after the 60 minutes is complete and they've all built their shelters, let's say it's a lean-to shelter, then we have them put on a orange jumpsuit, kind of like a prison yard orange jumpsuit. That's polyester, but it's really water absorbent. And we have them get into their shelters. And then we have the local firemen use these fire hoses and basically like blast all the shelters, like making it, artificial rain. The rain drips through the shelter, absorbs into their jumpsuit, and then they step out of the shelter. We put that jumpsuit in a plastic bag, and then we go weigh it. And then whichever jumpsuits are the heaviest are obviously the least successful because you got rained on. And then the ones that are the lightest, those are our winners. And we make sure that obviously all the jumpsuits are the exact same weight going into it. So it's very clear who's the winner and who's the loser. And then you earn points. And now you're going to do 6 of those challenges where you get a 30-minute lesson, 60-minute challenge, and you're going to do that 6 times over the course of a weekend, learning all these different survival skills that could literally save your life. And we've already gotten a few messages from people saying that they competed last year or the year before. They ended up actually in a survival situation and used the skills that they learned at the event to save a life, which is really exciting to know that we're making an impact.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have gone through that scenario in their head of if I were, in a forest or somewhere out in the wilderness, how would I survive? What would I do? But very few people actually go and like do the work to look into it. So I feel like even just for people watching, you're learning something really valuable.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons, a couple of the details is we've all watched those shows, right? Like I'm sure you have too. You've watched Naked and Afraid, you watched Alone, you watched Survivor, and we've all seen them do a bow drill fire or make a shelter or dig a pit well, whatever it is, or seep well, sorry. We've all seen that and we all think that we can do it. But how many times have you actually done it? Right? We always think we're going to do it. We're like, oh, like when I go camping this weekend, I should go ahead and try doing a bow drill fire. But by the time you drive 3 hours and you set up your camp and the sun is setting, you're tired. You're like, screw it. I'm using a lighter. And you don't actually test your skills. You think you can do it, but you haven't actually done it. And a lot of people are guilty of that. And the reason why is because we need an excuse. Like you need something, like a lot of people don't even go to the gym and work out unless there's a Spartan race coming up or or they're going to go climb Machu Picchu or something, right? And then they start they start practicing and working out leading up to that event. Well, it's the same thing here. We're giving people an excuse to actually get off the couch and go try some things by putting it in a competition format. So you don't need to have any pre-existing skills. You can be a complete amateur. You're going to come learn that specific skill for 30 minutes from a world-class instructor, well, several of them. and then test your skills in a 60-minute challenge. And so again, we're giving people the motivation and the excuse to get off their butts and actually test their skills. So that way, if hopefully never, but if they ever are in a survival situation, they will at least have practiced a couple of times under pressure. And that's the other thing. The pressure is super important. When we talk to search and rescue, we've learned that most people are in denial when they're lost in the woods. They're like, let's say it's earlier in the day, they get off course and they're lost, but they don't want to admit it. They just keep thinking like, oh, my car's right over that hill, or it's around that corner, or it's just past this tree. And they do that for hours and hours and hours without ever making a phone call or doing anything proactive in that situation. They're just in denial. And it's really not until the sun is setting and they have about 60 minutes left before it gets pitch black out there in the forest. And now they have to take action and do something if they want to prepare and survive the night. And so we call that panic hour. And that's why we set up these challenges to be in that 60-minute format, because you need that pressure that you're going to experience in the real world in that situation.
Well, a question I have, kind of backing up to it, something you were talking about a second ago is like who this is for competitor wise. Cause like, I remember when it was maybe a few months ago, someone sent this email to me, one of my colleagues, and said, oh, you should compete in this. And my first thought was like, oh, no way. I really try to avoid survival situations. Like I'm an outdoors reporter and like I know intellectually about some of this stuff, but I've never made a bow fire. I've never made shelter. I don't know how to do this stuff. But it sounds like from what you're saying is that learning how to make this stuff is part of the experience as well. So like, is there like a tension with that competition of, applying the necessary pressure? But do you feel like that turns off some people who maybe don't have any experience and don't want to like think embarrass themselves on this show?
Yeah, it's about 50-50. So I think our marketing materials might come across as a little too aggressive. And so people think that you have to be a badass survivalist in order to compete in this thing. So that's probably our fault there for, intensifying the marketing materials. But no, it's designed for complete amateurs who have never done anything like this before. And a good example is actually a guy named Joel, took second place last year. So he signed up solo. And then through a random draw, we do like a lottery about a week before. So everybody that registered solo, we pair them up in a random lottery. So he got paired up with a guy named Dalton, who does have a little bit of skill. Never in a competition format, but did have some skills. Anyways, Joel took second place. He's never owned a tent, never been camping before, never slept outside, never done anything like this before. He's just a businessman. And he was able to learn during the lessons, be present in the moment, be adaptive, overcome, and ended up taking second place. And who else was in the competition who did not even podium was Sam Strong, who had just completed, like 3 months before, had just completed Naked and Afraid, did the full 21 days. His episode had just come out a couple weeks before the competition last year. And someone like that, who is big, burly, who's strong, who studies survival, didn't even podium, and he got beat out by an amateur. I think that kind of shows like the format here. It doesn't matter if you have skills or not pre-existing. It matters, can you adapt? Can you overcome? Can you learn quickly? And again, if you talk to search and rescue, what you'll hear is that survival is over 90% mental. Sometimes the person that you least expect to survive is the one that does, because they're just mentally tough. Whereas someone that might have had all the preparation in a real survival situation or under those real pressure situations, they fall apart for whatever reason and they get frustrated. So yeah, anybody can come out and do this. Doesn't really matter your age. As long as you're 18 and older, you can come out and do this. It doesn't matter if you're fit or not. And yeah, it's about 50-50. So half the people there are very experienced and they are there for blood, and they're there to compete. But the other half are there to learn and to grow and to prepare themselves for any situations that might come up in the future. So we hope that, we don't want to intimidate anybody. We do want people to come out and learn. It's not just about competing.
And we were kind of comparing this to a couple other survival shows. What makes Pacific Northwest really specific to the Northwest?
Yeah. The Pacific Northwest is notorious for people going missing. I believe the numbers are over 1,100 people go missing in the Pacific Northwest every year. 90% of them are found alive. 8% are found deceased, and 2% vanish without a trace. And nowhere else in the country do you have those type of stats. Nationwide, as far as search and rescue or emergency responders being called, there's about 50,000 incidences a year in the U.S. But as far as like people dying and, or never being found, the Pacific Northwest is kind of famous for that. I think a lot of people blame it on Bigfoot for kidnapping them or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very dramatic. It's very dramatic here. It's a rainforest. That's another thing that people forget. It's like a rainforest means that the environment creates its own weather patterns, and so the weather can turn really, really quickly, and it's just very dramatic. So you don't need to go to South America. You don't need to go to Africa. It's like we have some world-class, intense rainforest that's difficult to survive in right here in the Pacific Northwest. So we're kind of lucky and unlucky at the same time with that.
It's all of these beautiful environments that we love to hike through, right? These lush forests and the mountains, the mist rolling over the hills on the riverside with these, big views over steep cliffs. I mean, just as a reporter and an outdoors writer, I think of all the things just saying those words that could go wrong to somebody in a situation like this. And we see this in the news all the time. People, fall, they get lost, they get stranded. And reading the stories of survival, a lot of times it's like people by the skin of their teeth getting out of there. I would imagine that learning just a few survival skills like this, how to make shelter, what to bring, how to make fire, could really increase someone's chances of getting out of there alive.
Absolutely. And I think another component is how all these survival skills tie together to save you in this specific environment. So before each challenge begins, we tell a real world story. Like it's usually a tragedy story, but a real story that applies to that specific skill to really make it sink in for people, because just because you can make fire doesn't mean you're going to survive the night. And there's a really good example of in 1969 or 1970, and this is one of my dad's friends. He and 3 other people were on a boat on the Columbia River, and a huge snowstorm came in. They were out fishing in winter, and their boat basically capsized and sank. And then they were able to swim to shore onto, I believe, Government Island or one of those islands out there. And they did manage to make fire. Like, it was snowing out. It was really intense. The winds were nuts, and they managed to make fire. But 3 of them froze to death anyways, because they didn't build shelter. I guess they were just standing around the fire, just kind of hoping for the best. And they just kind of gave up. They got sleepy, and that's the worst. Like, don't go to sleep in that situation. Like, run around, do jumping jacks, do push-ups, like keep your blood pumping, stay alive. And they just ended up going to sleep, and 3 of them died. And then the one that did survive, which is my dad's friend, he had to have his leg amputated, his toes on his other foot, and a couple of his fingers amputated from frostbite. But again, just because you might have 1 or 2 skills that you think like, oh, that's good enough in that situation, that would save my life. It may not be. This is a very intense environment here in the Pacific Northwest. And so you kind of need to have a very diverse skill set if you indeed want to stay alive.
And in the video that you shared, you have these 9 pillars of survival. Is that still the format that you're using?
Yeah, so the 9 pillars of survival, that specific format is going to be used for the TV show version. So again, in case the audience is confused right now, because we're kind of bouncing back and forth, there's 2 things happening. There's the live events, which are 2-day events, and they happen once a year in Malala. And then there's the 10-day version, which is much bigger, more theatrical, much more intense, and that's for the TV show. And we were hoping to film later this fall, but that's just me being optimistic. We're probably going to be filming in the spring of 2026. Hopefully with Amazon Prime Video. Otherwise, our backup is Netflix. But with Amazon, it allows us to, have a little bit more creative control. It allows us to really promote our product line. So when you sign up for the event, for the 2-day event, part of your registration fee actually gives you a backpack. And that backpack is going to have all the tools that you're going to need for the weekend. So it's going to have your ropes, your axes, your knives, your saw, and a few other little tools that are going to help you with each of the challenges. So if you do register and you come out to the event, You don't have to bring anything other than a tent and sleeping bag and your clothes, of course. We provide everything else. So all the meals, entertainment, camping location, and then all the tools, of course, in that backpack. But those backpacks are really cool because they're preloaded. It's got everything you need to survive as long as you have the skills. And so we want to be able to sell those backpacks on Amazon. So hopefully they greenlight the show. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. So, I mean, I'm hearing that you're sort of taking this format you're doing at the live events and you're trying to say, how can I adapt this to a TV show? So, I mean, I know that here I mentioned that the 9 pillars of survival. Now that I've heard that, I got to know more. What are these pillars of survival? Where do they come from? What are we talking about?
So the 9 pillars of survival come from E.J. Snyder from Naked and Afraid. I'm sure a lot of your audience knows who he is. He's a total legend in the survival world. He was also on Dual Survival, First Man Out, and he's a 25-year combat vet. This dude is a badass. And he has his own pillars of survival, and there's 9 of them. If you were to Google, like, what are the pillars of survival, there is no consistency. Like, some people say there's 3, some people say there's a dozen, some people say that there's 5. There's no consistency. So he has 9, and that worked really well for our format for the 10 episodes. That way we can focus on 1 pillar per episode, and then the final episode will be a combination finale of everything that they've learned. And so the way the show is going to work is episode 1 will focus on shelter, and then there'll be 3 challenges that day and that episode around shelter. So it might be build a waterproof shelter, and then we'll test it. And then the next one might be make it insulated and warm, and we'll use like probably digital thermometers and a way of heating it consistently amongst all of them to see which one actually insulates the best and maintains the highest temperature. And then the third challenge might be protect your shelter. So set up booby traps, early warning systems, things like that. That way if bears or cougars or even human raiders are coming at you, you can detect them and defend yourself and your life against them. So we have shelter. I'll just name the 9 really quick. It's shelter, fire, water, food, rescue, health, resilience, tribe, and navigation. There's a couple in there that I wouldn't have expected originally, but the more we've thought about it, the more it makes sense, why EJ put it in there. Like tribe, in survival, like, you might be trying to survive with someone that maybe you just met. Maybe there's 2 people out on a trail, which actually happened to one of my buddies last year. He was out hiking near Multnomah Falls, ended up taking a wrong turn, ended up hours deep into the forest. And then he ran into someone else who was also lost, and she had hurt her knee. And so the 2 of them had to survive until search and rescue found them at like 2 a.m. But anyway, so try like how what are your leadership skills like? What are your communication skills like? All those things can affect whether or not one or both of you are going to survive in that situation.
And so for differentiating between the live events and what you're hoping to turn into a TV show, can people from any walk of life sign up for either one, or how are you going about finding people for each?
Yeah, so for the 2-day event, it's basically just first come, first serve. I think right now we have 8 spots left. So if anybody wants to jump on there, you're welcome to sign up and come compete, including you, Jamie.
We needed 2-person teams, right? So
absolutely. Let's have both.
Peak Northwest could represent there at the Survival Games.
Yeah,
you would have a really bad partner.
I think that's what I'm hearing though. Like, I think what I'm hearing is that it's a learning opportunity as opposed to, for some people, as you said, who are out there for blood, are out there to compete. But for other people, it's a learning opportunity. So that's, as you've been talking, I'm like, boy, it would be nice to learn some of those skills. And if I view it as that instead of like, how well am I going to perform against other competitors, then it's a different experience entirely. But I did want to ask though, with that, what are people competing for? What's the big prize here?
Yeah, so for the TV show, it's a huge $100,000 prize, which is really exciting. For the live event, not even close. For the live event, I think there's a little bit of cash. That's not that big of a deal. It's so like first place gets $1,000, second place gets $500, and third place gets $250. But they do get thousands of dollars of sponsored gear. Turns out sponsors really like this event. It's been really easy actually. So there's like over $10,000 of $10,000 of outdoor adventure gear and survival items donated by the sponsors this year. So yeah, sponsors have been very, very generous. So you're going to get all kinds of really, really cool stuff. And at the end of the event, you also, by the way, get to keep those backpacks that we give you with all the gear in it. It's kind of like your emergency go bag you can keep in your car.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a prize in itself, clearly, but I love the tactile aspect of giving people physical items that they would actually probably need in a lot of these scenarios.
Yeah. I think for me, like the best thing is really just the bragging rights and the trophy. Like we have these really, really cool trophies. I found some on Etsy 2 years ago that uses a CNC machine. And so it basically takes like a big piece of wood, and use the CNC machine to carve it out and then paint it. And there's just beautiful plaques for these trophies that the winners get. So to me, that would be my motivation. I just want that trophy on the wall.
That would look great on your office desk, Jamie.
I don't know how this team competition has turned into a thing that only I am doing. You're really quick to like remove yourself from this, but this is interesting because survival is important for everybody to learn who's going outside, right? I mean, you don't have to be going on a 60-mile backpacking trip to have, you know, survival skills be applicable to your outdoor excursion. So, I mean, aside from the competition, how would you recommend people get involved in learning about these kinds of skills?
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, we do also sell for $50. You can get a spectator pass, which means that you can come for both days and just sit in, bring your own fold-up chair and just sit in on the lessons and learn from some of the best survivalists on the planet, these survival skills. You don't actually have to compete. So if you want to just come watch and learn, you know, pack a lunch, bring a chair, and yeah, $50, you can come with a spectator pass. We also do have a camp pass as well if they really want to get involved, which means for $100, they can actually stay the night with us on Friday night and Saturday night. With the rest of the competitors because everybody camps there. And that means all the meals are included, entertainment, live music. But then some of the best parts, though, is just the campfire talks. So towards the end of the night, the live music stops and we all just kind of gather around the fires and we let like EJ Snyder or Carrie Lee or Vico Wright, we just let them share stories and we can ask questions about different survival scenarios that they've been through. And that's really powerful. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole thing is just having that sort of more intimate time to soak in as much knowledge as we can from them. And anybody can come out and do that.
So you've got the live events. Anybody can kind of come out, spectate, or participate, and those are annually. And then this TV show, what kind of stage of production is this in, and what's your timeline for that?
Yeah. So we already have letters of intent from Jupiter Entertainment. They produce all kinds of big TV shows. Right now we're in talks to sign with Paradigm, which is one of the biggest entertainment agencies in the world. And then Netflix and Amazon are literally just waiting for us. Like they know we're coming. They're excited to meet with us. But apparently we had to have a production company already lined up and have representation. So yeah, as soon as those are buttoned up, which I think the Paradigm meeting is tomorrow or Wednesday. But yeah, anyways, so once we sign with them, we'll meet with the networks and go from there. I mean, it should all happen pretty fast. We've already signed on our talent. So we have Laura Zara from Naked and Afraid signed on. We have Ray Livingston from Mountain Men, Blood, Sweat, and Beards. He was also on Alone. He's a badass. And then we have Tori Belisi. We didn't want the third judge or mentor to be just another survivalist. We wanted to show that this is for anybody. Like, you don't have to be a survivalist to survive in an emergency situation. So we went after Mythbusters. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, Mythbusters, but I was a huge fan. And he's a professional problem solver, right? And he debunks myths. And so we went after him. He loves it. He signed on. And he's going to allow us to debunk a lot of myths about survival. Like, an easy one is, if you get bit by a rattlesnake, you can just suck out the venom, or have your friend do it. That'll kill you. That is, I don't know where that came from. I didn't think it was in a movie or something, and everyone just latched onto it. That is just the worst survival advice ever, and it's not true. Do not do that. Put a tourniquet on as quick as you can, stop the blood flow to that area, and get to a hospital. But anyways, he's going to allow us to debunk some myths. He's also going to allow us give us the excuse to blow stuff up too. So the survival skill is always going to be pure and life-saving. But the challenge, we get to do whatever we want with the challenge. We want it to be objective, but it's for TV. So we want to have some fun with it. So we want to have something where they're shooting a target. Maybe they made a bow and arrow from scratch and now they're going to shoot a target. If we want that target to blow up, by having Tori Bellisi on there and a Mythbuster, it kind of gives us that excuse to have those little bit more theatrical elements. So yeah, anyways, we already have them signed on. We already have all 27 challenges mapped out. So it's kind of teed up. Now it's just a matter of signing on and getting that signature from a network, and then we're off to the races.
Wow, so exciting to be to see this dream come to fruition. As someone who just wanted to have some friends over in your backyard doing a couple of little survival games, how does it feel to see this whole thing now, this whole production?
It's wild, man. I try to act professional. I know what I'm doing. I try to give off that energy so it makes everyone else feel comfortable. But deep down, I'm constantly just giddy and just blown away that this is real life. I can't believe this is happening right now. Behind the veil, I'm like a little kid back here, just hyped. The only downside about all of this, though, is the whole point originally was for me I'm competitive. I wanted to do these challenges. I wanted to be in the competition. I wanted to, compete against my friends and kick their butts. I wanted the trophy. I don't get to do any of that now because I'm the one organizing it all. So the silver lining, though, is I still get to actually test the skills. When I'm planning out one of these crazy challenges, because every year they're different, we want to keep everybody guessing. We have a lot of people returning from last year and the year before. I think we have a 65% return rate on people wanting to compete year after year. I have to actually obviously test all the challenges to make sure that they're feasible within 60 minutes, to figure out if there's any additional tools that we need to give them, and all those little logistical elements. And so just a few weeks ago, I can't tell you what type of raft, but one of the challenges this year is going to be they have to build an emergency raft and then navigate the river and collect these flags and then come back up the river. So it's a very unique craft that we're building this year. And so I had to actually test it. And so it was me and a friend versus two other friends. And we just went head to head for 60 minutes. And I totally won, which made me feel awesome. So that's my little mini version of competing in survival games is testing the skills, but just testing them in a private setting in a smaller group. It's awesome. I'm having a great time.
Oh, who knows? Maybe one day you'll be able to compete on a TV show. So this one or even just another one, I'm sure you'll have all the skills to do it.
That's right.
I mean, if nothing else, I'm adaptable. As I'm doing right here, taking a backyard barbecue and turning it into a national event and a TV show. I think that shows that I'm adaptable. And so I think that would help me in a survival competition.
Definitely. It's not a survival skill, but it's a great life skill and one that has worked out extremely well for you. So very happy to hear all about this. Happy the Pacific Northwest and these survival skills are getting this kind of exposure.
Yeah. For the live events too, something for people to look forward to is we're in talks right now with Scouting America, formerly known as Boy Scouts. And I think what people don't know is those guys have over 2,000 wildlife properties across the country, huge properties. People let's say they own 1,000 acres somewhere in the forest. They'll put it in their will. So when they pass away, it is granted to the Boy Scouts. And they've been doing those type of moments have been happening for over 125 years now. So they've accumulated all these wildlife properties that nobody has seen. The public hasn't seen these things. Unless you're a Boy Scout, you don't even know it exists. And they're everywhere and they're gorgeous. And so we've seen a few of them already. And Scouting America is very interested in licensing the Survival Games brand and our competition format to be able to produce these in over 250 locations across the country next year. Because what they've decided is that they want to open up these properties to the public. They want to show everybody what they have because nobody is aware. that these exist, and they're looking for an excuse to bring people onto the property. And they realize that the survival games competition is a really great excuse to bring people out for one weekend. It's really easy. Produce the events, have a good time, and show everyone what they have. Show everyone these assets that they have. And so, anyways, fingers crossed that it goes well. We're hoping that it rolls out to all 250 next year, but it might just be like a small test group of councils that they roll it out next year, and then it'll expand from there. But that would just allow more people to learn life-saving skills a lot quicker, rather than having to try to get into this one competition in the Pacific Northwest where only 50 people are allowed to enter.
Gosh, well, it's so much going on for you. So happy to hear about all of it. Tony, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today. Really appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, folks, that will do it for us for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show, and if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find the details at OregonLive.com/subscribe. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show is produced by me alongside Jamie Hale, Vicky Connor, and Teresa Mahoney.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.